GM guys, welcome to the Cabal special. I call it this because Bunzi, my typical co-host, is out of pocket today. Matt, who's based in Florida, is fighting a hurricane, and so I just ended up inviting a bunch of the group chats in all forms, shapes, and sizes. Basically, every Cabal I know has been invited to join. I see Bongo here. He's got his own Billy Cabal, so the Billy Cabal is here. Based Internet Panda, so the Panda Cabal is slowly rolling in. I'm still waiting for the Psycho Pandas to hop in, but let me just reshare with them just to get the party started here. Um, Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Um, yeah. By the way, feel free to join in as a speaker, however you please. This is kind of going to be like a one-off special episode. All things runes, really. It can be pups, it can be dog. Would love to have the dog army come and join up here to chat and of all things, I guess runes. I see artificial liking, I see sterling liking, so I expect them to be dog enjoyers. But look, I think maybe let's just give it another, maybe 30 seconds to a minute to let people stroll in, and we'll get some speakers live up and running. Also invited Magic Eden and their team to join in to chat all things runes. The Liquidium team, which is providing degens with leverage on their runes. I see Make Tokens Fun is here, which he's product from Magic Eden, which is obviously super exciting. Hopefully, we can get some alpha from that team, as we usually try and unwind. But yeah, maybe let's just give it another minute or so. I'll ping some of the teams that I've mentioned to join, and we can get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to Farmer Joe's Space.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be the Cabal special, so I figured I'd have literally everyone kind of that's enjoying runes, the gains that they're making. I mean, the trading activity on Magic Eden has been super exciting to see. I mean, we went from basically the top three Bitcoin runes and Udi fudding our bags, and having them trade at like sub, I guess, 2 Bitcoin for the top three across all three, which was kind of scary low, right? I think most people were barely hanging on at that point in time. But then all of a sudden, I don't really know exactly where this momentum shift came from. All of CT, I guess, with the momentum that Runes was able to capture, seems to have shifted and has identified Runes being basically free as tokens. I mean, you still only have two tokens on the Rune side, which trade over a nine-figure market cap, and on Solana and on Ethereum chains. I mean, you have, I would say, dozens, if not maybe 100 between the two that trade at nine-figure market caps. It's very much like I would say that this resurgence of interest really has come from like Murad and everyone's starting to believe in the meme coin super cycle, whereas like altcoins are really just I would say meme coins with tech in a lot of ways, with more steps, as he likes to say. And I guess like if we, I was even in one of the spaces yesterday, which was run by Leap and the rest of the, I guess, CT cabal. And I just thought to myself, I'm just like, these guys are thinking about meme coins in the wrong way, right? Like, meme coins are supposed to be funny. They're supposed to be communities, like fungible communities. They're supposed to be things that go from zero to basically infinity. Whereas like the whole CT framework has really been, in a lot of ways, like PvP type trading where you find a 50K gem and you sell it at 1 mil market cap. Ultimately that's kind of how you get wrecked over a long enough duration of time. I don't necessarily dabble in like these, garbage PvP coins. I mean, I have once in a while, but I've never had like massive success. But I see Robin just joined. Robin, what's up? I guess it's been a while. I see James from your team as well. I think you guys are in Amsterdam, so appreciate you guys joining. I'm not sure if the events have started over there just yet, but nonetheless, appreciate you guys taking the time to hop in. Rune's volume on Liquidium has been pretty damn impressive over the last, I would say, 2 weeks. Obviously, Pups being the one that has actually had some of the largest loan volume. I can't say that I haven't been the one that's partially to blame there. Um, I just think it's a great piece of collateral, and I'm very much a believer in it basically being free at 20 mil, 30 mil, 40, 50 mil market cap, which made like the LTVs at like 50%, basically a no-brainer. But yeah, what's up with Liquidium? It's been a while. And I guess how are you guys paying attention to the rune space? I guess at Liquidium for right now. Robin, are you able to speak? I'm not
Oh,
sure if you're.
sorry. I
Uh,
I I missed to unmute. But yeah. Thanks for giving the quick introduction. Yeah. So yeah, runes. I think definitely the whole market is coming back, right? And we're seeing that across the board, not only on Liquidium, but also obviously on Magic Eden, OKX, and so on. We can just see that kind of yeah, the liquidity is flowing back in. I think also on centralized exchanges actually, but it seems like there's more activity going on chain right now, which kind of leads me to believe that the early people, like the early adopters, are here again, and then the next step will likely be more volume on centralized exchanges again. It's just my feeling. um but what is very interesting that is that even with the whole market pumping, the dominance, so like our volume compared to other marketplaces volumes, have been much better than um, like earlier than ever before, basically. Which leads me to believe that people just kind of have a feeling, or like like know that there are some sort of blue chip runes now, where they kind of like put enough trust in them to use them as collateral, versus like previously in the last cycle, if we can call it that. Everything was so new that the winners had like yet to be chosen. And now it's kind of like we have the second cycle almost. Runes were dead for a little bit, and there is still like some of the same coins that still are in the like top runes by market cap and by volume, which are definitely like right now considered the blue chips. And I think that investors and lenders and borrowers are much more comfortable using them for loans now, which actually shows that the market is maturing in that sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. As someone who isn't a borrower, but rather a lender on Liquidium to generate yield on Bitcoin and ultimately Bitcoin yield, and sometimes it leads to defaults which are net positive, and sometimes defaults are net negatives. But it's kind of a two-sided approach, right? Because people will only lend if there is sufficient amount of liquidity, for example, for any specific asset. I for one monitor that, and it's part of the reason why I don't think I was comfortable in lending on anything other than pups and dog. And I would say Billy is another one that I felt relatively comfortable in providing loans for, particularly because I knew that in the case of a default, for 0.1 Bitcoin or 0.2 Bitcoin, whatever I was providing, I would be able to like liquidate that in a span of like a day, let's call it. That's kind of like my metric. Can I liquidate any of the amount of defaults that I'm putting out in a single day, and can others do so as well? For Pops, it's very much like I can liquidate it instantly. Just go into Solana with the liquidity pool, right? Like, I haven't had the reason or need to do that just yet. Nor do I really want to do it on something that I created. So there's like a personal view, stay long on any sort of defaults. But it's just one of those things, right? And for Dog, for example, if most people have access to centralized exchanges, of course, there's plenty of centralized exchanges that have listed it, and you can be comfortable that you can cover your default, whether that's positive or negative, very quickly. Robin and then make tokens great, or make tokens fun. Sorry, make tokens great would be pretty funny too, but make tokens fun after.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what you said. Like from a lender's perspective, one very interesting explanation of like what lending on Liquidium is like. It was actually from Raf from the Ordinals core team. He was explaining it by basically saying you're placing a bid on the collateral and you're earning money while having the bid open. So essentially, like for example, if you're lending to pups at 70% of the floor price, you're essentially placing a buy bid at 70% of the current floor price, and then you're earning interest on it. And if the price happens to fall or the borrower doesn't repay, you will get the collateral, and otherwise you just earned interest. So I think that's a really interesting perspective to look at it, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people that just want to accumulate runes right now, or that want to potentially accumulate runes at lower prices. They can just like create some loans at these lower prices that they're comfortable with, and yeah, then either you get the collateral or you earn some interest in Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. And in a lot of ways, I view these things as like, would I be comfortable in buying or holding this asset? So it's almost like a below the money call option, or yeah, like an option basically. Sometimes, of course, no one's. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as what Raf said is true, particularly because, I would say there's maybe 1% of all my loans that have defaulted, which are, I would say net positive simply because someone forgot. So I would say the default rate is a default is really only happen if it's not in favor of actually paying back the loan. So in most cases, I do get burned on those. Sometimes it's basically at the floor price or slightly below the floor price, and you can work your magic and try to get things with good traits. For example, like I try and provide liquidity or provide loans on things like what is it called, the red node monk trait. Oh, damn, underlord. I think it's called an underlord trait. Um, and the cheetah trait is a good one. The mempool trait is a good one. The duck trait is a relatively good one. So there are some gems that you can kind of get things at the floor price while still getting kind of a mid rare or semi attractive traits in the process. So yeah, totally agree with Raf's take, to a degree. But I think in practice it just doesn't translate to that directly. Um, make tokens fun. I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna comment on what we've seen over here in terms of like the resurgence of runes. I think basically what I've seen is I mean, this whole time everyone kind of knew that runes and ordinals would be a Bitcoin beta play. And so at least the big thing that I was keeping an eye on was Bitcoin making a higher high and then a higher low, hopefully on the on like the daily chart or like something that was just like longer term time frame. So I think once that at least started to look like it could happen, that's when you started to see people like aping into runes in like this coordinated fashion. And it also just so happened to be like at the point when there's a lot of people out there who, I mean, like look at literally every single other chain. Like if you got into WIF last year instead of Solana, you're up like probably 10x or something, but WIF you're up like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of x. So I think people are still kind of chasing that trade and chasing like the high beta plays of each chain. And I think with runes, like you get the added longevity. Number one, like Bitcoin's not going anywhere. Bitcoin's going to be here like 50, 100 years from now. So I think that like regardless of your view of if these altcoins are still like like prevalent in 100 years, I think that at least provides a little bit of assurance to people who are buying them. But then number two, I think it's also just like the nice thing I've noticed recently is it's not like this like PvP arena. Like it actually is a space where like it's definitely more PvE. I mean, just look at like the tickers. Like you can only have one ticker. Like there is no 7 Mudangs that eventually get run out by the Mudang on ETH. Like it's like there's literally one on Bitcoin. That's it. So I think some of those like features actually help it as well. But yeah, it's been good to see the turnaround and like super super exciting. I'm hoping that we did like bids recently. I'm hoping that we're able to launch swap in the coming swap will be out in like 3 weeks time. Yeah, about 3 weeks. So I'm hoping that swap's able to like pick up off some of that momentum and help volume get even higher.
Yeah, no, honestly, it should be really fun to see things kind of transpire. I mean, last week we kind of talked about this whole like cute runes meta. I mean, Panda's pretty damn cute. This new thing is pretty cute. Waddle is kind of like the original cute rune. Psycho Hamster, also cute, but not entirely cute, if you know what I mean. Like pretty damn psycho. But I think that's part of some. I actually do like that energy. It's just all of these communities have, or all of these memes just have a very different energy to them. Like Billy is like a fun one. Dog is kind of like the simple, uh, I would say like generic, I guess, is another way to like say it. But it's just a dog, you know. There's nothing glamorous about it. Pops is kind of like the the chaotic, funny, mimetic, Bitcoin one. The internet panda. I don't know. I just see that one kind of popping up, and I think the green background that they tried to get everyone to translate to worked out pretty well. Psycho hamster being kind of like the cute, crazy psycho one, and then I think Waddle is more of like the CBS special. Obviously, being pretty well known in this space as like a pretty legendary trader, and doing things from scratch hasn't necessarily picked up a huge amount of traction in like the ordinals community. Um, but it's the holder base just seems to come from different types of individuals that are resonating with these memes in some way, shape, or form. And I think, because these things have been around for the better part of, I would say, 4 or 6 months, they were able to be reasonably distributed across the board, build pretty good social channels, show to their holders that they're very much going to be around running the socials, running the community, building it forward, and so forth. Yeah, I think the Lindy effect of meme coins in general is something that can't necessarily be ignored. I think some of the more early winners, or recent kind of incumbents, they kind of trade at a 1 mil, 2 mil market cap. Um, so it's kind of, I think there's certainly more risk there that they kind of just fade into the abyss. But I think, the longer and the higher these blue chips tend to trade up, the better they will do as risk assets in this cycle. And I think a lot of people forget that there's only so many risk assets in Bitcoin. You can choose NFTs, which are 3 to 10K collection sizes, or you can choose meme coins on Bitcoin. Um, I mean, obviously there's utility runes, Liquidium being kind of the only one, and Zbit being kind of another one that is based on gaming as a meta. But other than that, like I don't know how many teams can do a TG on runes in the next 6 months. So, if we do have this like euphoric cycle, things will run and things will run pretty damn fast. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see. Sweeper, what's up? It's been a while. Pups guy now.
Yo, what's up? How we doing? Yeah, we're talking about the market, the runes market here. I think with same thing that happened with the PRC20 market. We had already run in November, October, November, up to like 2 billion market cap. Or yeah, around 2 billion market cap, and then came down, and then was in like kind of like a steady state for a bit, with Sats running a little bit before that, and then fast forward to like March, April, we had Pups run, and then the whole BRC20 ecosystem came alive all over again. I think we just had Pups die and come back to life. We had Moonshot. The At that point, the only way to buy Solana meme coins on with Apple Pay. Now with Jupiter, you can do it as well.
I
Come
just saw
out.
that actually. They just announced that today, right?
Yeah, they just announced that today. I think there are gonna be a lot of players. I think Apple changed their service terms of service on something, and there's like so people are able to do it. Um, Maybe in the last few months. So Jupiter's doing it. I know Magic Keaton's gonna do it. Um, According to Charfu, he said in his space. I think they're also doing it with runes, which could be even better for us. I don't know how it will work out, but no, it'd be interesting. But Pups led again here and brought the runes back. Like you know, saying anything else would be dishonest. You can just look at the chart and look what happened. Farmer Joe likes to not talk about it a lot. So you have to have someone here who actually shills it. You had the bonk guy put his example up, and I was like, "Yeah, my example is a little bit better, but I'm a private guy. I don't want to put all my shit out there like this guy." Um, so for everyone who knows, I know with that quote tweet I did of his, call myself the pops guy. But I think you'll have a lot of these runes run pretty hard. Uh, Pops, Billy, maybe even Dog. I think Dog, problem with Dog is the community is not as organic and it hasn't been battle tested. Like they went to 1 billion, they went to 200 million. They haven't been like crushed, right? Like Pups got crushed. We went to $1 billion and went to 15 million. $1 billion cat got crushed. I think they went to like 60 million, 70 million, and went all the way down to like 13, like 12 million. Like where you're like, okay, this may die. Dog never went to a place where it could die. So I think may still have some time to go. Right now, the runes market is mispriced. Um, you have Doggo the Moon at 365, Pups World Peace at 136. That's gonna flip, and then you're gonna see Leonidas say, "Dear Binance, Dog is the number two big meme coin on the mother chain. Please list us." And that's gonna be glorious. So if you have any Dog, would definitely tell you to think about maybe possibly swapping for Pups, but you do you. But basically, all these runes are going to get bigger. This market. That looked like it was going to die actually die. It looked like runes, the meta protocol was dead. And then you even had the problem with Casey being this like funny guy and like joking around so much. It's hard to back this guy sometimes when he makes these jokes, and then the shit is like at pops is at 15 million. You're like, man, what's going on here? Maybe this isn't going to work out, but it did. Magic Eden has been pretty strong with their backing of runes, and I think if you like runes, you definitely have to tip your cap to Magic Eden and OKX, two like stalwarts in crypto that have been super early to runes and have backed it when many others have not. So very good the fact that we survived, and I think there's a possibility that runes can be the token standard on Bitcoin over BRC20. Right now, BRC20, I would say, is still the token standard because the biggest token is already on BRC20. and I think Ordi will be the number one token on Bitcoin forever. Just it's the first token on Bitcoin, so typically those will do well, and I see it as a Bitcoin beta play. So if you have Bitcoin and you want more exposure, I say buy Ordi. People think I may be crazy saying that, but I think a lot of finance guys will eventually come around and buy the Bitcoin beta play by Ordi, and then I'm pitching Pops as like the meme coin, culture coin on Bitcoin that's going to go to billions, 13 billion, possibly even more. I'm hearing people talk about. I'm hearing this Murad guy. Haven't really known him too much before, talking these huge numbers. So I think maybe we might need to change it from 13 million billion. It went to 13 million, sorry, but 13 billion to 130 billion. We may have to change our prophecy up. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, I was just gonna say the Billion Dollar Cat Boys, really, they chose such a funnable number, like just a billion. It's just $1 billion cat. Yeah, and I mean, same thing with like Pops. I mean, you look at some of the top memes of the last cycle, right? Like, I think Doge, Sheep, you name it, they were all kind of like over 50 billion. And we're dealing with the mother chain at the end of the day, so. I honestly would not be surprised to see like highs of some of the best meme coins on Bitcoin to exceed 20, 30, 50 billion in this cycle. Granted, it's a little bit different this cycle, primarily because the accessibility and the fragmentation of these meme coins as an asset has expanded horizontally. So it's not just having one or two or three really good memes out there to ape size into. It's I would say dozens, if not hundreds, of really good memes. So the aggregate market cap of them all might actually still be 3-4x the highs of the last ones, but that's still, nonetheless like a massive number that can be hit at some point. Obviously, I think Murad's a little bit crazy to say some of these meme coins are. I mean, you have to be a little bit delusional to say, a lot of these meme coins will hit nine-figure billions. But I wouldn't be surprised to like see this as well. Sometimes the most ironic outcome is the what's the saying? It's skipping my mind now, but yeah, sometimes the ironic outcome is the inevitable one. And we all kind of are believing in this super cycle meme coin thesis now, and so because we all believe it, it's kind of bound to happen. It's just about the normies believing that this is also going to happen, because I think CT is a relatively crowded space sometimes, that we're all disillusioned by numbers go up. But I'm gonna let Eagle speak first, then Robin, and then Rune Whale, because I know we've been chatting in DMs as well a little bit. Would love to hear from you at some point.
Hey, Farmer. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. One thing that I want to talk about is like the runes order books. I feel like the way the lot structure is, the buy and sell, like without the liquidity pool, is very healthy for organic communities to form, because you can't just like rug the LP or liquidity pool. You actually genuinely have to build like an organic community and create that demand. And I feel like that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most, like seeing these sub 100K communities come together, being formed around like a sticky idea, and watching them grow. And yeah, it is super early, and I'm looking forward to seeing how liquidity flows into runes for the second leg.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, much like Sweeper has said, these things are very volatile. They have to, the bottom isn't in until basically the consensus view is that this is really going to die. And I think in a lot of ways it was pretty damn close. I know when I was talking to Robert, and this basically did mark the bottom, and he's never really an indicator of this, but I remember he was just like, yeah, I'm starting to think maybe runes aren't the token standard of choice. Like, I'm having some doubts, and it was at that point that I think the bottom was truly formed. So when you have a Bitcoin maximalist like him, of all things Bitcoin assets, saying, "Yeah, it feels like it's all over," and when you really feel it inside, that's kind of when you know the tide is just ripe to turn around super quick. Robin, what's up?
I just wanted to touch on like what is the token standard, and I don't know if you touched on this in the space, but mempool.space, they just enabled support for runes. So in mempool.space, you can actually see how the runes moved in the transactions now, which is pretty insane. Like mempool came from having a little toggle where you could toggle on like a little shit emoji to see ordinals from now to now supporting runes, which is pretty insane. I think they kind of saw that more like the larger Bitcoin audience actually likes ordinals and runes, and it's not just Bitcoin maxis.
Yeah, no, agree with you. I think it's exciting to see that. The other part too is I wanted to just get your take too, because you guys not that long ago added BRC20, but I'm curious to know, Ordi is obviously an asset that most people think is a great, sustainable value and so forth, but what have been the lending volumes on Ordi and Sats? Just kind of curious, because those are listed on some of the most, I would say, widely adopted exchanges. So I figured that the volume on those could be quite high, unless basically Ordi is owned primarily by people that have bought it on centralized exchanges at this point, which wouldn't necessarily surprise me either.
Yeah, good question. So I'm looking up the numbers live right now. They are available on Liquidium. BRC20 has been performing very, like, surprisingly bad compared to runes and ordinals. Like, ordinals is still by far, and let me just pull up a dashboard for this, and I can also share the link to it. I can just give you the rundown of like percentage, how much which asset makes up for how much volume. So ordinals is still like last week ordinals was 69.4%. Nice. Runes was 29.3%, and BRC20 was only 1.2% of the volume on Liquidium. So BRC20 is performing surprisingly bad on Liquidium. I cannot tell yet if it is because BRC20 users are a different market than runes than runes people. Maybe runes is more popular in Western markets, and BRC20 is more popular in Asia, in Eastern markets or in Asia. Liquidium is more popular in Western markets compared to Asia. So that might be why, but there could also be other reasons why BRC20 is so unpopular. Maybe we should just market it more or something like that. But yeah, so BRC20 only makes up for like 1.2%, and like the best week was like 2.7% of our volume. Therefore, not surprisingly, Ordi only has 1.5 Bitcoin of volume on Liquidium right now, versus let's, for example, look at some of the runes. On the runes, for example, dog has 77 bitcoin, 77.6 bitcoin in volume on Liquidium. Pups has 109 bitcoin of volume on Liquidium. So it's like Pups is uh, a 100x from Ordi on Liquidium in terms of volume, which is pretty insane. So yeah, BRC20 is kind of dry. It's kind of dry, but I'm looking forward to see if the community is still like if BRC20 will also pop at some point.
No, appreciate the takes and all the numbers that you're able to share. I mean, most people don't have access.
Awesome. What's up, guys? Can you hear me, Farmer
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, what's up?
So, can you all hear me right now?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're
All right, my
live.
bad. Sorry about that. All right, so wanted to come up here. We were talking about Murad and how he's the main character, and I wanted to kind of break down where runes would fall on some of his metrics because he's clearly excluding us, right? Before I do that, though, I do want to just say we have two phrases in the $1 billion cat community: Billy to a Billy, and then $1 billion is just the floor. It's $1 billion cat, not $1 billion cat. $1 billion is just the floor. But Murad really likes these percentage of holders with $1,000 plus bags, percentage of holders with $10,000 plus bags. He really likes this metric, and it is really interesting. And I don't hold any dog, and then I kind of have my own opinions on some of the approaches to how they're trying to get on, tier ones. But Leonidas actually made a really good point. He retweeted one of those metrics. I think it was percentage of holders with 1,000, and SPX 6900 was at the top of Murad's list on that. And Leonidas said, "Dog blows all this out of the water. It's 57% with dog." And I was like, "Holy shit! Like that is really impressive." Let's look up pups and $1 billion cat as well. I can't remember the exact number for pups, but I know it would have been in the top 3, and then $1 billion cat would have been number 4 on the list, tied with Mog. And part of that is, Mog has a part of that metric is, the higher your market cap, the more it's going to be. But percentage of holders with $1,000 or more for $1 billion cat was about 29%. That's right there with Mog. They're also 29%. And then percentage of holders with $10,000 plus was around 9%, which is also tied with Mog. That would have been number 4 on the list. And then I believe Pups was higher than $1 billion cat. It wasn't quite as high as dog. I can't remember the exact number. But if you go to Ginny, I don't know how you pronounce it, Data or Luminex or whatever, and just you can do the math real simple by just going and finding that wallet number that would be $1,000 or $10,000, and then doing the math on the total wallets. You can find the numbers real quick, and yeah, the top 3 runes when it comes to meme coins blow his list out of the water with respect to SPX 6900, Giga, and Mog. And Dog, I will say, Dog is crushes on those metrics. So we got to get Murad, who is a self-proclaimed Bitcoin maxi. Like he calls himself a Bitcoin maxi that just understands meme coins. We got to get him understanding what's going on here. I've talked to him in the past before. And he told me he was going to kind of take a look at it. I was just telling him that the infrastructure was being built, but maybe Farmer Joe can get in his ear. Just kind of wanted to share that.
Oh, we're in his ear, all right. He's very much aware of meme coins on Bitcoin. I think he knows what he likes. He's got an eye on a couple of them. I kind of know his take on dog, but I don't want to share it. Primarily because this is a recorded space, but he certainly likes pups and a couple of others from some of the other discussions back channeling with him, which is really exciting to see.
Share the take.
And obviously, RuneSwale, I appreciate the data points that you've provided. It's obviously really awesome to have a massive community like
Sorry
this.
about that. I rugged.
No worries, no worries. I said appreciate the takes on the numbers and the data points here. I think these are like really important and fascinating, data points to just identify that, runes holders are massively long. Like, I think most people here believe that their bags should be worth 10x, if not 100x more than where they are right now. And, certainly there's going to be people selling along the way. But the testament that they aren't necessarily selling right now is actually a very strong data point that they're probably not going to be selling 2x higher from here. They're probably not going to be selling 5x higher from here. And if we do get 10x higher than here, and then everyone's going to be so euphoric that they're going to be thinking everything's going to infinity. And then maybe we have centralized exchange listings after that. And yeah, Bitcoin meme coins truly, I guess, creep up to where I think, fair value for them should be, which is, fighting right there side by side with Ethereum meme coins and Solana meme coins at size, scale, and market cap, and be just as accessible as a lot of those are on centralized exchanges. So appreciate the takes. Good data points both from Robin and you, just to get a primer on why selling now is truly financially irresponsible, not financial advice. But of course, I haven't necessarily been selling a single ordinal or rune for that matter in many, many months, and I've just been stacking. Simple as that. Like, the believers will generate more wealth than the traders. It's fun to make a 2x here and there, but I think the environment that runes and Bitcoin presents ourselves in, it's not really, it's not really at that stage of its maturity where we're fighting for the last dollar between ourselves. Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to say, if you ever need like really a lot of data points and insights on data, Sudo is your man. He's in the audience right now. I pinned I pinned one of his comments right now on this topic here. He is like literally full-time data analyst at Liquidium, and then also if he's not working for Liquidium right now, then he's doing some other data stuff on his own. Like if there's anything data related, it's Shudu and Dogfather. I think they're kind of dominating the space with the data. So I would love to have like just a data only Twitter space.
I mean, look, this has been I intended this to be kind of a DGen Runes Cabal friendly Twitter space, but this has been probably way more insightful for myself and others just joining in, than I could have imagined it. But it couldn't be possible without smart people like Sweeper, Robin, Rune Whale, and Sudu, of course. If he's in the audience, the one metric that I think was interesting, and I had Ren from Electric Capital, which is tier one venture fund. He's a homie of mine. And he's also really big into data analytics. But the one metric that I think would be interesting to rerun is just number of Bitcoin in wallets that have interacted with runes and ordinals and BRC20. The last time Ren actually ran this for me, I think we settled at a number that was 400 million. So only 400 million in Bitcoin TVL, just shows us how early we are. I mean, you have more TVL on some L2s than that, and Ethereum has billions of dollars in Ethereum-based TVL that has interacted with the chain in some way, shape, or form. But Sudu, if you're listening, curious if you can run that wallet analysis view on like how much Bitcoin is sitting in idle in wallets that have interacted with ordinals and runes. Robert, I know you had your hand up. Go ahead.
GM, enjoying the discourse here, and Robin, good call out on the mempool.space runes integration. I love to see that. Like those guys are have one of the best, obviously. Actually, I think just the best explorer for Bitcoin transactions, full stop, for L1 transactions. So it's really nice to see the runes integration. Farmer, I have to revisit the sort of semi-FUD on BRC20 versus like runes and potentially other standards. It was looking pretty dicey there for a while, as you noted in our calls.
I was nervous, man. I'm just like, damn, like I guess Catnip is gonna take over and Upcat is gonna ruin every single last one of our bags. But yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I don't get too nervous, but I was just like, well, it's time to get a job again.
Yes. The thing is, if you recall, like in these conversations, the prediction that I think is still somewhat fair is the jury is still out on runes being like a DeFi scalable token standard. It's obviously great for meme coins. and all the degeneracy around, very like simple supply issuance like tokens, that have no utility. But when you want to like do, trustless buy burn mechanisms, or I don't know, like just any sort of like traditional DeFi like applications on Runes, we're clearly like not there yet, and I'm not sure Runes is even the best fit. I think the case that some people would make is that like opcat, cat VM, maybe Arch, maybe something we haven't seen yet will change that and unlock a new wave of functionality for Runes. And the builders are clearly keen on making the Rune standard work for something more than just a meme coin, but it's not working yet. And there's no like, I don't know. We just haven't seen any implementation of like a DeFi standard work on the Rune standard yet. But I'm hoping that like if in Bitcoin season 3 maybe we see this like sort of wave of applications that have associated Bitcoin native tokens that are truly like net new unlocks of DeFi on Bitcoin. So thanks for
Yeah,
hearing the rant.
obviously, Robin being one with the Liquidium token, I'm sure he would love more expressivity to do more with the token itself, and certainly from like a product perspective, it does open up the amount of possibilities you can provide, be it liquidity pools of some sort for Bitcoin and meme coins and utility runes or gaming runes, or whatever you really want to envision is certainly much more possible if you have smart contracts on Bitcoin. It's certainly not here today, but we're inching forward to it. It can't happen fast enough, quite frankly. Um, but we're getting closer, and I think because everyone is really working in that direction, it's more or less like inevitable. How it works, whether it's going to be this semi custodial way or in a custodial way like dot swap is working right now, I think that really shows that builders are thinking about solutions for today regardless of these things coming down the line. But I think that's really like a net positive. Woof B1 TCH, what's up? You had your hand up.
What up? I think like another thing about runes no one really brings up is the fact that the quantities aren't really they're kind of decreasing in size. So if you're like a big company like even Apple, or that's kind of a stretch because obviously I wouldn't expect them to etch a rune. But if you're a business or if you're in Web3 and you have like a 5 character, 6 character, whatever the name is, it's like you still kind of have time to get into this market and spend money or spend gas to etch a rune that no one else has had time to do yet. Whereas like on every other protocol, you kind of have to like be there first or spend the most money in a gas war or whatever it might be. So I think that's something no one really talks about. That's cool with runes in terms of like IP or like, just names in a certain token, whatever it might be. But on top of it all, yeah, I just think it's all super new, and there's a lot more money to be made that people haven't really realized. And I think a lot of people think it might be too late, and maybe it's like time for the next protocol like CAT or whatever it is. But like BRC20 still thrives and will thrive for certain reasons. I feel like runes will stick around for other reasons. So
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I know NFT Boy just joined, and he's a Fridge Maxi and an Aquarius Maxi, to my knowledge. Boy, what's up? How are you doing recently? I saw you're eating good at least.
What's up, Farmer? Good morning. Good to see all the lads up here on stage. Love you guys. Yes, man, I am a Fridge Maxi, and I am an Age of Aquarius Maxi. I think that both of these protocols have created billions of dollars in value, or will create billions of dollars of value. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense that the core teams, creations runes should be like in the hundreds of thousands, the low hundreds of thousands to me. I feel like if Solly or if Tolly or Raj deployed a meme coin on Solana, it would be like $1 billion token. So Obviously, it's a slightly different situation, but yeah, I think that there's potential for those. I'm about to post something about it because I feel like
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
and
I
and
want.
I think you're also a Wanko maxi because it's tied to Casey. So you got the
I am a Wanko
trifecta.
Maxi.
The
I'm also
only
a
one
Pups
that
Maxi.
and a pups maxi. I think the only one that you're missing is the one that Rock is gonna deploy, or already has deployed allegedly with Arsic.
I'm an Arctic Maxi too. I mean, that one's like a little bit of a forced Maxi bag hold, but I'm a Maxi still.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm still an Arsic hold. I mean, I got a bunch of these things across the board. I try to stay away from the super degenerate ones, which are trading at like 20 or 100K market cap. But I think, a bag of, dog, Arsic, Billy, Pups, Panda. I don't know if I have an opinion on Newt yet, but it seems to be, honestly, it seems to be taking off pretty much faster than I expected it. Hamster, Pengu. I mean, Sparky Runedog is kind of up there too. I wish Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto could do a little bit better because
Yeah, me
um,
too.
I'm definitely one of the top holders still. And Zbit, Liquidium, yeah, I think generally like things that are going to be around during the cycle, or even like multi-cycle is a good way to like approach things. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if R6 going to be around multi-cycle, but I'm sure they'd love to be as a team that's trying to uh, trying to make some money too.
Hey FJ, what's and by the way, just shout out to Roktoshi in the audience. Come up and speak. It'd be great to hear from you. But Farmer, curious what you think about Magic Internet Money. Like, are you a fan? Are you gonna
Oh
buy?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I honestly, yeah, I forget that one primarily because it's still a BRC20 token. Um, and I see Maven liking my tweets, and he's a Pups maxi, and he posts about Pups sometimes too, and he likes comments the Pups stuff, and I'm just like, uh, sir, I think you're forgetting that you have to start distributing these runes somehow. Yeah, no, obviously, I think most people are very much excited. That community is truly getting battle tested um, multiple times, but I think that's kind of how you develop a pretty strong holder base. So any sort of like runes catalyst there, I think would be in an upwards trajectory. So yeah, I just don't know like what their ambition or Maven's ambition would be to get it listed on centralized exchanges and do more than just distribute the runes. That part makes me a little bit nervous, I suppose. But I think if there's enough large whales, the job will be done if it trades upwards and is relatively successful. I think the name itself is smart, and I'm actually surprised that no one actually tried to front run the ticker because I don't think the rune number for Magic Internet Money is even all that low. If I'm not mistaken, it's kind of 20 or something like that. Let me just
yeah,
see.
I think it's like 19 or definitely in the first like 20 or so. Actually, it's 17. Magic Internet Money number
17.
17. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so I
we
think I
don't
think
know
based
yet.
on that, it's about a point four BTC day one.
Yeah, we don't know what the distribution is going to look like. I know a lot of people are like speculating on like, is the original ordinal like Bitcoin Wizard JPEGs that he put on chain around like 100K inscription mark, like are those going to be, the things that like are the right asset to bet on? Is it, holding Wizard, the BRC20 token? Like I think there's still a lot of like ambiguity around this, but honestly, Maven has done an incredible job of just embracing this sort of meme of like the chaos. It's sort of like become its own meme in a way. But as you can tell, I'm quite bullish on the Magic Internet Money. I'm very eager to see that one go live.
Yeah, I forgot about that because the style of the distribution is actually quite similar to like how the Rune Puppets NFTs had allocation, which was relatively private until the very last moments to, keep things fun for people. I'm all for creating a bit of a game and creating game theory around distribution. I think it honestly worked out pretty well in the grand scheme of things, and in most cases, I think it was actually better to hold the NFT than it was to just buy the tokens outright, especially on some of like the rare trait ones, which were more of a surprise aspect to people. I I think on the wizards though, the supply is like on rune puppets, for example. I think the supply that we had was 10,800 or so, but on the wizards, for example, I can't recall how many there are. Is it 400 or so?
For the Bitcoin Wizards, yeah, that sounds about right. But the
One
inscription
point one
numbers are
one 1.3K. Yeah, it's 1.3K for them. That can, yeah, I mean, that can be a pretty inefficient pricing model to begin with. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious as to like how he distributes it. I think it's just, you know, part of the game, part of the fun. And actually, I think more recently that they've had a pretty substantial amount of volume across the board. I think close to like 1 BTC a day on average. And I think Wizard is still the most liquid on-chain BRC20, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of trading activity. Or I haven't actually taken a look at like trading volumes for BRC20 in what feels like ages to me. But yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's top traded BRC20 on Unisat is Wizard. Yeah, second is Track.
and it makes sense because like the other big BRC20 tokens have a lot of like sex activity, whereas Wizard is like in that sweet spot where it's like well known, like a big meme, like big holder base, strong holder base with like a lot of buyers, but not a lot of sex adoption. So definitely in that sweet spot of a token that's like fun to trade on chain. But yeah, I think like in the last week or so, or even a few days, it appears that Wizard is like I don't know, like 2 or 3x. So makes sense that the JPEGs have followed as well. But yeah, NFT boy, you got any takes on the Wizard stuff? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's kind of in a similar boat to where Pups was kind of before this most recent pump in terms of like a lot of CT knows about it. Big CT people have talked about it. It got to a pretty high market cap, had high volume, still has good volume. So I like it. I also think it's a great meme for Bitcoin. I mean, I'm a fan. I think a lot of people are kind of waiting for distribution of the rune and like to see what happens there. But yeah, I feel like it's a quote unquote blue chip, if you can call any of these blue chips. I mean, yeah, everything could go to zero, but I'm bullish.
Yeah, no, agree. I mean, on-chain trading activities generally, like, you know, where the alpha tends to come from. I do feel bad for those that are going to basically be exit liquidity for a lot of people when they realize that Bitcoin has tokens and ecosystem and they enter on centralized exchanges. You know, I'm sure that they can do quite well if it gets listed before any sort of like bull run euphoria. But those who would have held like from mint to centralized exchange listing and then some are just absolutely going to crush like they usually do. I mean, this is not really dissimilar to how things worked on Ethereum and other chains, and I guess even Solana in a lot of ways, where, you know, being on chain is very much like the edge that you can bring to the table, and things are still like forming, I suppose. And buying things like sub 10 mil market cap just feels like a no brainer in a lot of ways. Robin, I wanted to get into the BRC20 aspect because I think, you know, we're chatting a little bit more about Wizard, but in terms of like user friction, for example, I suspect maybe that's like one of the elements that's preventing a large amount of BRC20 lending, because you have to inscribe a transfer specific to the amount that individual, I guess, yeah, is anticipated to provide a loan for. Whereas like runes, they're a little bit more fungible in that regard. Um, is that fair to say?
Yes, yeah, I think absolutely. Like runes definitely have a superior user experience when it comes to that. However, we did go above and beyond to make the BRC20 user experience as good as possible as well, and as frictionless as possible. So, for example, if you just have like a bunch of BRC20s in your wallet and you go to Liquidium and you're trying to borrow, then when you click borrow and select a bundle size, then there is like the first button that you're seeing is basically inscribe the transfer inscription for this bundle. And so we built like an in-house inscription tool for these to inscribe the transfer inscriptions. And then it's pretty straightforward. Like you just click inscribe the transfer, then you have to wait, which is not great, obviously, but it's just a necessary step in order to make sure that it's secure. We need to wait for a confirmed transfer inscription, and then but you can see like in the modal itself that the inscription is pending, and then once it's done, you can start the loan. But yeah, obviously, it's like one more click, one more signature in your wallet, and then potentially 10, like plus minus 10 minutes of wait time until the transfer inscription is inscribed. So there is definitely way more friction compared to runes. But I think like considering that like how BRC20 works, it is the easiest flow that is possible. But yeah, that just proves, I guess, that BRC20 is not as well suited for DeFi applications as, for example, Runes is.
I suppose, we're talking about this current iteration of BRC20, which is still kind of like 1.0, whereas like 2.0 is trying to solve some of these hurdles. To just, not to knock on BRC20, because I know they're certainly doing more things behind the scenes to try and solve some of these problems. BG, this Cabal special would not be would not be a Cabal special without the original Cabal leader that has certainly brought, I would say, the most amount of EVM, ETH, and potentially Solana folks into this ecosystem back in Wave 1 and Wave 2. How are we going to make the biggest splash possible with Wave 3?
Great question. I feel like airdrop season is coming back soon. So how are we going to do it? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to also utilizing services like Arch. Looking forward to seeing like Cat20 stuff to see if like Ordinal's wallet can execute on something like Fleur. Fleur looks really interesting. Cat VM. Those are the things I'm really excited about, I think, right now. Like, I think, I was on that space yesterday with Leap, and towards the end of it, and there's a lot of like meme coin guys on there that I think are starting to take, notice of runes, just because of a lot of the green candles, and a lot of them, I think, just like, of course, are not in this ecosystem on a day-to-day basis, so they have no clue what's really, going on. I think like a lot of them are just like, yeah, as soon as you guys figure out AMMs, like you guys should be fine. And it's like, yeah, obviously we've been saying that for, I don't know what, over maybe a year now, or 6 to 7 months since the launch of runes, that we need something like that. And I think it's, in my opinion, become pretty clear that we're probably not going to ever really have an AMM on layer 1, and that's going to come on probably sort of different layers, and maybe that's of course Arch and others sort of coming out. So I don't know. I think like, yeah, Magic Eden Swap is a step in the AMM like experience, but it's certainly not the absolute solver. So I think that there's a lot of people that are looking forward to hopefully the next step in innovations. If that happens on a layer 2, then we'll see if people enjoy that.
And I think, just to clarify, what you mean is like true L1 AMMs, and not something that's using like a smart contract extension solution like Arch and some of the other Arch competitors. Yeah, okay, cool. No, that makes sense, because I know Robert was
have faith, BG. Have faith in the builders. Okay, that's all I'll say. Like, there's a lot of very exciting tech happening on L1 or even like L1.5 quote unquote solutions. And yeah, like I think the path to like full AMM like functionality on the L1 definitely seems very unclear, especially given the uncertainty around upcoming soft forks. But I'm pretty optimistic that there's enough like of a carrot for builders to like work in this direction. Like the first like startup to really solve these problems on the L1 obviously is set to have a big win, big payday. So I think it will happen. But yeah, just stay bullish on the builders. That's all I'll say.
I'm ready.
Yeah, no, love it. Yeah, look, I think we're kind of approaching the last like 10 or 15 minutes of the spaces. So I know Swag is up here. You know, I love to see kind of like the OG band back together. This kind of reminds me of the vibes that we had kind of in the early days of Ordinals, you know, with Swag, with Robert, with BG, NFT Boy kind of joining very shortly after kind of the first wave was
We
getting
need
started.
Bunsey too. I know he's
Dude, it's
missing, but
hard to, I've gotten a lot of, oh, you left, now you're coming back. But like, it's tough to, as much as we've gone through from like, this is it, like ordinals and runes aren't going anywhere, to having to like continually just say that same shit to people that are bearish about it. It's pretty fucking tough. So, the builders go back in their holes and they build. And I think now we're just seeing, obviously it feels like it bottomed. And so we're starting to see some mints pop off, fees jump back up to 150. Yeah, I feel like we're back.
Yeah, Swag, I agree with you. I mean, for the better part of all that dead zone, I basically became a full-time shit poster to keep my own sanity in this space. But obviously, was still very much a daily active viewer, enjoyer, observer. Certainly not a developer in this space, but I think keeping track of developer velocity and where things are flowing to puts you at a significant advantage to know what sort of like development progress, user experience progress we might see in the near term. And I think that's really going to be one of the largest inflection points to get people in on the next wave simply because there's green candles and then have them actually stay and for as long as they can embrace a more functional but still clunky user experience with 10-minute block times until the L1 is truly broken and has high network fees, high network activity, such that we're all kind of craving scaling solutions beyond what Bitcoin can operate at. I think that's really how I see the progression of Bitcoin continuing. Um, I think ordinals are certainly going to be here to stay, and there's just so much value that will flow back to L1 users, as long as they obviously hold and so forth. But if they don't, then they've realized significant returns, and the next marginal buyer is that's bullish selling to me, because there's another believer that is hoping for 2, 3, 4x returns, and if you can manage and hold throughout the volatility, I think much like Bitcoin had insane amounts of volatility since 2009, the winners were simply those that just believed. And I think a lot of people that hold high quality ordinals right now and have made the most, I would say, gains in SAT denominated terms have simply been those that basically just never sold or maybe had the foresight that that they were going to sell when things get too euphoric simply because they just don't think that the broader market is going to hold up for a bull run, or maybe you think like we're like pre-bull. I'm still of the view from like a macro level we're not really in a bull run. I mean, alts are continuously getting crushed as tokens start to unlock. The only thing that has actually done well for CT and I guess Web3 users at large is really Sol and BTC being kind of the dominant drivers of value, and then meme coins. If that wasn't your asset, I mean, I guess ordinals too, but if that wasn't like your portfolio composition, um, you're pretty wrecked right now. And I think the sentiment on the Ethereum side, and I saw Beanie posting this actually, he was just certainly feeling like he was crushed, and he's just like, yeah, like maybe it's time to recalculate a little bit. I'm starting to think that this Bitcoin thing and Bitcoin assets are, gonna be something that is vastly exciting to people simply because they perform well. And if we just look at like where the attention, the narrative in this cycle is really coming from, it's not anything around scaling Ethereum. I think we're past that narrative cycle. Everything around this cycle is about how do we use collateral or Bitcoin as collateral to do AVS in Babylon? How do we get Bitcoin TVL wars on some of these L2s? These L2s and Ethereum and Solana, if they don't have Bitcoin on their chain, they're really going to be nervous in the next 2 or 3 years. And so the narrative right now is the best one that we could possibly have for anyone holding assets on Bitcoin, be it ordinals or runes, because all the attention, mindshare, and VC backing is piling into this as a narrative for this cycle. And that just translates to more L1 network activity and more capital flowing back into the ecosystem with, what now we have as blue chips that stood the test of time and have been basically shaken out through multiple bottoms on end. All right. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any other takes. I'm just like, I continuously just am insanely bullish. And I still think that right now is not a bad time to like allocate. If yes, things have moved drastically, like where they were like a week ago, but these bull runs, they're months long, and the green candles continue. So I personally don't think that it's bad risk reward from this level onwards. Like I continuously just think that we're massively undervalued if we just look at cross chain values across the board. I don't know if anyone feels differently. I think we're all kind of in an echo chamber of uh, of L1 believers, but just kind of curious as to what your frameworks are in the next like 4 to 6 months.
Let's hear from Matt on this one. Be good to hear his takes.
I think yeah. How's the hurricane, Matt?
No, currently marked as safe. Drove over to Orlando just to kind of get a little bit out of the like direct path, which is like kind of funny. There's this app that you can track the hurricane path relative to where your exact location was, and the path was like literally going over my blue dot. It was quite funny, but 175-mile-an-hour current wind speeds it's going to be bad news bears for a lot of people. So anyways, no, I've been enjoying listening to all you guys. There's lots of good takes. I think Eagle really started it off saying, there's a lot of usefulness that's going to come out of this, more order book style trading. It's got, a certain liquidity profile that allows LPs to, have more flexibility or control over, their spreads. And then of course with AMMs actually coming down the pike as well, with, has a completely different liquidity profile, but I think is going to be necessary to scale the the market caps of all these fungibles, because right now it's just lacking in terms of liquidity depth, and that really comes from a lot of these deep uh, AMM style trading experiences that you see on other chains, and just hasn't really been possible for a lot of the limitations that Bitcoin brings. And we're really excited to be working with a lot of really based teams like the DotSwap team and Saturn and Ian Magic Eden, who I think it's all about making incremental improvements, right? Like we've seen what DotSwap did with the layer one swaps using PSBTs, albeit more of a centralized multi-sig. And then of course, when we ship to mainnet, that will transition over to this decentralized multi-sig where LPs can have more confidence knowing that it's there's less centralization risk there, and we can actually build much stronger sources of liquidity that can actually take these fungibles into the next into the next wave of growth. BG said it well as well. Like from a perspective from these other traders in Ethereum and Solana, they see the green candles, they see the the big spikes in awareness, but until we actually build a trading experience, a UX that is more familiar to them, it's going to be very difficult to convert them over and actually get more net new liquidity into the ecosystem, which I think is certainly coming, and that's what we can all be bullish for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, when BRC20s came about, no one knew how to sell. They only knew how to buy. Obviously, forced hodl is massively bullish for all bags, but even in runes, for example, I think in a lot of cases, people are just listing these as large batches and they don't understand how the UTXO model works. So I think there's still definitely room for improvement. Rune Whale, what's up?
Hey man, maybe I'm looking into this just a little too much, but Coinbase just announced that they're allowing Taproot for their Coinbase.com users, which I mean, that was one of the reasons I always thought, oh, Coinbase isn't going to list runes, like they don't even allow Taproot. Well, now they do. I'm going to post it in the comments so you can see.
Is it SegWit?
I don't know. It says, we're pleased to announce that Coinbase.com users can now send Bitcoin to Taproot addresses, creating access to more on-chain. Sorry, one second. Creating access to more on-chain destinations. I just put it in the comments here.
And it doesn't say BC1P or any code for the address, huh?
I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like Taproot's a go at Coinbase.
This is really bullish news because you're right. Like enabling this interoperability with Taproot does like kind of lead us to a direction where they support ordinal and rune assets potentially. I mean, maybe it's a bit of hopium, but there is like some legitimacy to the under the hood tech there. So yeah, this is big. This was only 22 minutes ago that they put this out. So nice call out.
Yeah, spaces have been the alpha. Good shit, man.
Higher.
So I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is the sort of like narratives that come really next. And I think there was a lot of people that from ETH and Sol really bought runes because, for whatever reason that was sort of the hot thing at the time, right? Everyone was like, oh, runes is this, crazy next level sort of innovation on Bitcoin, and it's going to change the fungible game. And like, yeah, it did to some extent for Bitcoin fungibles, but obviously like Ethereum and Solana are still years ahead in terms of infrastructure, liquidity, dApps, etc. And the experience is so far behind still that I think many of those people, eventually were like, screw this, I'm out. They sold, the classic Clemente stuff that we all loved and sort of laughed at. But like, I think the reality is there with that is a lot of people I think really feel really similarly, in my opinion, to Clemente, and I think that sticks with some people in terms of sentiment for a bit, and so I think when it comes to like upcoming narratives or sort of liquidity, I think that's going to stick in people's heads for a little bit. And yes, there's going to be probably some green candles just because of the overall market is going up. But I think that in order for Bitcoin fungibles, and I think even non-fungibles, I think to be truly competitive with other ecosystems, like we need to figure out ways to tap into our idle wealth participants, which is, these ancient Bitcoin whales, or just, people with lots of Bitcoin that, ultimately don't need all of that Bitcoin. And, you look at chains like Ether Sol, and they have these IDA wealth participants, people that invested early on into ETH that, seed levels, pre-seed, whatever, or hundreds of dollars, right? Not thousands of dollars, and are willing to spend it on whatever the hot thing is, right? Whether it's ICOs, then NFTs or sort of DeFi in 2020, whatever it is, they're willing to use their Ether Sol on those things. Unfortunately, I think we still have like that sort of cultural drawback here of where many of these ancient Bitcoin whales or just larger holders of Bitcoin are much tighter with using that Bitcoin for anything, whether it is non-fungibles, fungibles, etc. And so I do think like my ultimate thesis is that you will have some ETH and SOL participants come back just because they're like, all right, like maybe this I got it wrong the first time. But I think to really be competitive, like we need to tap more into those people with Bitcoin they've been sitting on for a while. And I don't know if that comes in the form of just like more tempting or sort of tantalizing art yields. I'm not sure, but like I do think like we really need to like that is I think the golden goose in terms of unlocks. Like it's not necessarily bridging from other chains. There's already the most amount of money of any sort of L1 here, but it's not an easy sort of task. I think these people that, of course, invested early on in Bitcoin have a different mindset, and they're not as degen. That's for sure.
Hey guys, sorry to jump in like that, but PJ, I think you're making a really important point, and I'd like to kind of ask here if you think it's really a cultural blockage or like a cultural limitation that prevents them from doing this, or it's just that we haven't yet found a killer app, exactly like Ethereum found DeFi back then, and this is really what we're still missing.
Yeah, it's a good question.
So it's
I think it's really a
I
combination,
think
right? That's all right, Matt. I'll let you go. I guess. I think the short answer is I think it's probably a combination. I think then there's been different sort of cultural movements over the years that have pushed many builders away from even thinking about trying to build that killer app. And I think when the invention of ordinals, it's brought back a lot of people to seriously think about that. But it's still maybe not there. So I think it's certainly a combination.
So one thing, I mean, first of all, it's a phenomenal point. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think it's a couple things. And the easier to mention is, these other ecosystems have foundations that literally exist to accelerate the growth and support the innovations that are happening in that ecosystem. Right? That's those things are there for a reason and certainly succeed in that element. And that doesn't exist on Bitcoin. There's nobody that says, here, we're going to contribute this amount of tokens or this amount of capital to creating more useful things to exist for these new fungible assets on Bitcoin. That just doesn't exist. So that already exists as a limitation. The second thing that I would say is from these wealth individuals or these corporations, like you mentioned, that have a lot of this liquidity. Let's take Solana for example, like a Multicoin or a Big Brain Holdings who are quite rich in Solana bag. They understand that there needs to continue to be an evolution of usefulness for that token, and all through a variety of innovations, whether it be AI, DePIN, new tooling and infrastructure, et cetera, for their for that bag to continue to go up in value. That's sort of a known thing amongst these wealthy individuals or players in the space. But I don't think that that's generally an aligned notion amongst the wealthy actors in Bitcoin. I think that they're quite comfortable. These laser eye maxis are quite comfortable just stacking their sats and continuing to hold in either cold storage or with a custodian. And a lot of it is Eastern money, or Eastern Bitcoin, where a lot of mining originated. So I think what you're seeing on the venture side right now is you have this like private liquidity marketplace for those Bitcoin, and it really just comes down to APY. What can you return in exchange for my Bitcoin to be utilized in some type of way. And they don't really take much risk with it either. And we saw this sort of play out with Merlin, where you had a couple billion just parked on the chain. It did nothing. You know, they farmed. Sorry, my phone just rugged. But yeah, I think, you know, like it all comes down to APY for this liquidity marketplace, which may or may not be useful for that liquidity. But we need to like, I think it's not necessarily a cultural thing as much of as an educational thing, where we need this innovation to continue to happen on Bitcoin, where more on-chain activity continues to exist and proliferate. Otherwise, how do the miners get paid? How do we continue to, you know, scale the fees and the security budget of Bitcoin? You know, that needs to be a priority, you know, not so much a, you know, an afterthought for yield. You know, in this sort of pseudo liquidity marketplace that we're seeing. That I think those two major factors are reasons why, you know, there's a misalignment with the wealthy actors in the Bitcoin ecosystem versus others.
But at the time, bro, maybe there's a middle ground, you know, without getting into to bring those like laser eye axes sitting on huge wealth. Look at, you know, we already generated over $400 million of fees just with the ordinals and BRC20s. So, you know, maybe all we need is a few more percentage of Bitcoin wallet holders to move and do stuff with ordinals, with BRC20, with Rune. You know, we probably haven't even touched more than like 3-4% of the whole, you know, total population of holders. So I'm really wondering if right now one thing that we're also facing as a challenge is the fact that we have such a fragmentation of the space between all the L2s, drive chains, side chains, that, and most of them are really being built by fantastic builders right now. Do you see a way to kind of bring this energy together so that it doesn't shoot in different direction, but that we can have a chance to leverage all of that great energy?
Yeah, I can answer that. Am I rugging? Can I not hear somebody?
No, you're
I
good.
can hear you, Pete.
Hey guys, so first off, great space. Nice to see everybody. Second off, dude, talking about the ancient Bitcoin whales. If the thesis is simple, dude, they're not coming for anything other than Bitcoin puppets, opiums, and pups. The prophecy needs to be fulfilled. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have nothing of value to say. Just go on Magic Eden, check out Bitcoin puppets if you haven't seen them. Shout out Farmer Joe. Shout out Swag and Bad Brothers, Big Guy, all the homies. And yeah, send them love, dude. Bitcoin puppets. Yeah, amen.
No, I love it. Ben, maybe we can wrap up this spaces. I think the answer to bringing everyone together is getting pups liquidity on every single one of these chains, such that we're all forced to care for the greater good of the ecosystem. Yeah, maybe whether that's I don't think ordinals are going to L2s, drive chains, side chains, you name it, but I think fungibles have a much better case for it. On that note, this outro track is a little bit of a throwback, and I know Robert's going to enjoy this one. So, anyways, thanks everyone for joining. Till Thursday, and we got Bunzi back then.
Drinking on me liver, on me right, and have a spliff of marijuana.